The craziest Bitcoin ad I've ever seen is incredibly about to be released soon for a potential Super Bowl show. We're taking a very fascinating look at this because it discusses how Henry Ford, interestingly enough, predicted Bitcoin over 100 years ago, as a matter of fact. It talks about how Bitcoin offers us a better future and addresses the nasty fiat money system. It's an absolutely must-see clip that I haven't seen anywhere else in the world, and it's already going viral. A lot of people are fascinated by this clip. We also see a host in a German TV show who says that Bitcoin is decentralized money that can't be inflated. And it talks about the advantages of Bitcoin, or rather, the differences between Bitcoin and crypto are discussed. An ultra-bullish statement for Bitcoin is being made here, and it also seems that more and more positive reporting is now appearing in the German media. We're going to check out these two clips because they're definitely worth watching. We're jumping right in with the potential Super Bowl clip. So it's being advertised online that this could be the next ad in the Super Bowl. I don't know if this has been officially confirmed yet, but this could definitely be a potential clip that runs during the Super Bowl. And I've really never seen anything like this. Check it out. By the way, this whole thing has been translated into German using AI, and you probably won't find a translation like this anywhere else but on this channel. So make sure to hit that like button below and also subscribe here so we can really take off and get Bitcoin out to the masses.
We exhaust ourselves, leave our homes, give up precious time, and still can't afford anything. Our money is broken. Broken money steals your energy, your time, your life. Thomas Jefferson tried to warn us about this. He knew that a currency that can be printed out of thin air would screw us all over. Henry Ford proposed a new type of currency in 1921 that was completely based on energy. He had the idea that an energy-backed currency would be the ultimate form of money, not just promises and paper. He believed that an energy-backed currency would be an honest way for people to prove the work they do. Our money represents our value, our life, our freedom, our energy. It is not right that it is constantly being devalued, but there is a solution to this. It is the safest network the world has ever seen with never a single outage, completely decentralized all over the globe, powered by raw energy. There are millions of people around the world investing every cent they have into it. A network out there that works tirelessly day and night, storing its energy for a better future. There are millions of people around the world investing every cent they have into it. A network out there that works tirelessly day and night, storing its energy for a better future.
What's being described here is the problem that so many people intuitively understand but can't quite identify. That our money is broken, the cost of living is getting harder to manage, and Bitcoin is the solution here. And the craziest part is that it really dives into Thomas Jefferson, who back then actually wanted what was good for America or for the citizens, and he already recognized that fiat money is really just garbage. And that's why Thomas Jefferson, just like Henry Ford, would probably be a big supporter of Bitcoin, because they recognized back then that there has to be something that can't just be endlessly printed, something that is solid and backed, because that truly creates wealth. These guys basically predicted Bitcoin. And that's why Thomas Jefferson, just like Henry Ford, would probably be a big supporter of Bitcoin, because they recognized back then that there has to be something that can't just be endlessly expanded. Something that is solid and backed, because that truly creates wealth. And these people basically predicted Bitcoin. Of course, back then there weren't the technical possibilities. For example, Hayek also talked about how money shouldn't be unlimited, that it has to be introduced quietly, without the state noticing, without the state being aware of it. So these were actually people who already knew back then what perfect money should look like. Hayek also talked about how money shouldn't be unlimited, that it has to be introduced quietly, without the state noticing, without the state being aware of it. That means these were actually people who already knew back then what perfect money should look like. But of course, there weren't the technical possibilities at the time, and then Satoshi came along and put everything together, designing Bitcoin for us. So these are actually people who already knew back then what perfect money should look like. But of course, there were technical possibilities, and then Satoshi came along and put everything together and designed Bitcoin for us. And now we have this massive tool, Bitcoin, at our fingertips. And that is why what is said in this clip is so crucial, so important, and so well put. So, if you really have friends who are new to Bitcoin, make sure to send them this clip. It's absolutely amazing how much is summarized in such a short time. And now let's actually take a look over to the world, because there was also a massive Bitcoin report where Bitcoin was discussed. Holger Zschäpitz was also invited here and is talking about Bitcoin.
Welcome to the topic of money. The designated US President Donald Trump is also thinking about this now. And so is FDP leader Lindner, who is suggesting the same thing and hitting the same note. From the perspective of the former finance minister, the Bundesbank and the ECB need not only gold, but also foreign currencies and cryptocurrencies. The future Trump administration is pursuing a very progressive policy regarding crypto assets. The ECB and Bundesbank may be independent in their decisions, but Germany and Europe shouldn't let themselves get left behind again, Lindner said. Crypto assets now indeed make up a significant portion of global wealth growth. In the studio with me is Holger Zschäpitz from our economics editorial team, of course, an expert on money, crypto, stocks, ETFs, and everything that comes with it.
Glad you're here, Holger. Yeah, is it a sensible suggestion to actually include crypto in the reserves now?
First, you have to ask yourself, why is he doing this? Or he's doing it, of course, because learning from America means learning to win. And I mean, the FDP is at 4%, and now he needs some topic to score points with. And now let's think about how many percent of Germans have crypto. 12. And if he just gets a few of them, like a couple of crypto brothers who say, man, Lindner is the guy, then he would have already won. So now the question is, you asked how sensible is that? We also have gold as currency reserves. Tons of it, Linda, from the 2001 vintage at the Bundesbank, not just at the Bundesbank, but also partly in New York and partly in London. And that's worth about 270 billion. Should we also include digital gold, which is crypto or Bitcoin, in that mix? And I'm not so sure about that yet. It has only been around since 2008 and is still a relatively new thing. And whether we should just throw some German money into it right away, or sell gold and put Bitcoin in its place, it's still too volatile for that. And in America, they just confiscated Bitcoin. We had some like that in Saxony, but they were sold off. And they want to do something with those confiscated ones now. In Germany, we would need to start anew.
But I would say, Holger, crypto has a big advantage. Bitcoin, above all, can't be used in an inflationary way. There's not that much of it.
You're absolutely right. So the advantage is that there are a maximum of 21 million Bitcoins, just Bitcoin. So we need to differentiate here. When he talks about cryptocurrency, I don't want him to include Solana or Ethereum or any other stuff. It's really just about Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin. It's truly a decentralized currency that can't be inflated. With Ethereum or Solana or all the other cryptocurrencies, there's a private operator behind them who can expand it. So we definitely don't want that. Now we're talking about Bitcoin, and you're right about that, but gold is similar. They only pull a certain amount out of the ground each year. About 2% of the gold money supply is expanded. It's also not something that can be endlessly increased, and that's why it's okay for now. I think 2025 is going to be an interesting year for the stock market, especially with Donald Trump in the mix.
Holger, you'll be keeping an eye on the whole thing for us.
So here we see something crazy that doesn't happen very often, where the host is actually more bullish on Bitcoin than the invited Bitcoin expert. They're talking about the Bitcoin reserve here, and there's actually some critical talk about whether or not one should buy a Bitcoin reserve. I don't know if that's the way to go, and blah, blah, blah. Here, they're talking about Lindner. What Lindner is doing here is clearly election campaign employment, so we have to agree with JPG. But if we don't start building a Bitcoin reserve in Germany, other countries are going to overtake us. Other countries will build up their Bitcoin reserves, and we'll end up being the losers again, just like we were with the internet or other technologies. We could really be at the forefront here, leading the way, being the front runners who invest in new technologies. But it seems that even the experts here are kind of pessimistic and don't really want to embrace this. Then they make a comparison with gold, saying, yeah, gold is kind of scarce too. But no, gold isn't really scarce. It's only relatively scarce. Bitcoin is absolutely limited, and that's why Bitcoin is preferred over gold here. I mean, no front against gold. Gold has done a good job over the last few hundred years. But now Bitcoin just has more advantages over gold. And why would you bet on horses when you could bet on space rockets? Why bet on horses when you can invest in the Hyperloop? Why bet on horses when you can have the fastest cars in the world at the starting line? In the end, it's just outdated technology, and you have to keep up with the times. Otherwise, you'll just be left behind, They're also talking about the volatility and all that. That's just nonsense. If you have a reserve, a Bitcoin reserve, then you will hold the Bitcoin for 10, 20, 50 years, or even 100 years. So why should you care about the daily volatility? You're holding on to Bitcoin for a long time. It's not like you're doing day trading or anything with it, and I just don't get that either. And yes, they really emphasize that Bitcoin and crypto need to be distinguished from each other. I totally agree with that, because the FDP is saying that cryptocurrencies shouldn't be included in the Bitcoin reserve, but rather in the currency reserve. And that's clearly a really strange proposal, because that would mean that Shiba Inu, Dogwifet, Solana, and so on would be implemented here in the ECB or the German Bundesbank. And that's definitely not a good idea. I can totally understand that. Overall, it's really great that more and more Bitcoin is being reported in the media. Now we also have the bullish Bitcoin clip that still blows me away, like that commercial. We're getting more and more coverage, and yeah, there are still a few little things to nitpick about and so on. But basically, it's already making its way into the mainstream. The host even says here, hey, Bitcoin is absolutely limited. So it's already gotten through to people that Bitcoin is limited. Everything else expands. With technological progress, we can harvest bananas, grow papayas, or even mine gold more easily, you name it. Bitcoin is limited, and that seems to be slowly coming into the mainstream. And as more and more people get it, it will also become easier for folks to buy Bitcoin, because that's the big problem we have right now. When you buy Bitcoin or, for example, go on TV or talk about Bitcoin, you always have to justify yourself like, hey, why are you buying Bitcoin? Why are you recommending Bitcoin? You have to defend yourself because it's just not recognized in the mainstream yet. Even when you go on TV or talk about Bitcoin, you always have to justify yourself like, hey, why are you buying Bitcoin? Why are you buying Bitcoin, or why are you recommending Bitcoin? You have to justify yourself because it's just not recognized in the mainstream yet. If someone somehow has dollars in their account, then no one has to justify themselves because it is simply accepted in the mainstream that you can put the money into the account here. But when someone buys Bitcoin or something like that, they have to justify themselves. And that could actually happen, that in the coming years, this will shift more and more, as we're already starting to see, where you won't have to justify yourself anymore if you're a Bitcoiner or if you're buying Bitcoin, because it will just be the status quo. It'll be one of the accepted stores of value, and that could create a big shift. Because then it will also allow more and more, let's say, NPCs or folks who just have no clue to buy Bitcoin. Right now, when those people buy Bitcoin, they always have to justify themselves, just like this host here, and that's a big problem for many. That's why a lot of people aren't interested in Bitcoin. But that's going to change sooner or later, which is why I'm super bullish on Bitcoin. If you still want to buy Bitcoin, please take a look below. I will give you a link to Bitcoin. Here you can easily buy Bitcoin, and with the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can get up to 20% off the fees when purchasing Bitcoin. See you later, let's fucking go. Peace out.